Hello, this is Lieutenant Lou, and welcome to part 3 of SE 310 Innoslate tutorials. Today we're going to be talking about working with requirements, and let's jump straight into the tutorial. So what we're going to be doing today is importing our requirements into Innoslate. So for you, that's going to be your Euchre's requirements, and in this example, we're going to use a gym. So this is going to be one of the first things you do after you create an Innoslate project, is assemble your system level and some subsystem level requirements. And when you're writing your requirements, in order for them to import correctly into Innoslate, you're going to want to make sure to have it in an Excel document. And the format is going to be exactly like this, with number, name, and description in columns A, B, and C respectively. And also make sure that your numbering system makes sense. You guys have learned about the nested numbering system using decimals to further extrapolate on certain requirements. For example, requirement 1 is provide exercise equipment, and included in that is cardio machines, free weight equipment, etc. Another thing that you have to make sure when you're writing your requirements for import is that your description has to be written in the correct systems engineering requirements manner. So in your case, it will be the system shall or the Euchre's system shall, and in this case, it's going to be the gym shall for every single requirement. And now, one thing you want to make sure is that you need to save this file into a comma-separated list, otherwise known as a .csv. So file and save as. And instead of saving it as an Excel workbook, you're going to save it as here, a comma delimited .csv. And save. So after you've written all of your requirements into the correct format and into an Excel.csv file, you're going to import all of that into Innoslate. So once you're in Innoslate, go to your project, and from your project, go to Menu, and you're going to click on Import Analyzer. Now, as you can see here, there's a bunch of different options for files that you can import. We're going to be importing our Excel.csv. So Innoslate will take you through a few steps in Configure. Just make sure that you are importing a requirement. Step 2, select. So I'm just going to drag and drop my file into Innoslate. And it should tell you when it's done. It should be pretty quick. Now in step 3, customize, just make sure that all of the columns align the way you want it to. So you have columns 1, 2, and 3, number, name, description, number, name, description, exactly how we want it. And finally, next, they're going to take you to a preview. You can click Save. And here we have our imported requirements. You can see here that they all imported correctly, and where we have nested requirements, Innoslate also reflects that. So once we've successfully imported all of our requirements into Innoslate, we're going to add the prefix R for requirements so that we know that each of our requirements is in fact a requirement, just for future documentation so we don't get our numbering mixed up. So to do that, let's go to auto number, and we're going to add the prefix R. And check this box, add prefix only, click run, and now all of our requirements will start with R. Now let's say that we want to add or change a requirement in Innoslate. To do that, go to Database, over on the top here, and make sure that it is filtered by requirements. So over here on the left pane, you can see Filter, and make sure that you are filtered by requirements, as I've done here. So let's say that I want to create a new requirement that expands on requirement 1.1, cardio machines. And let's say that I'm going to make a requirement about treadmills. So to do that, click on New Entity, and you're going to be creating a requirement. Now, since cardio machines was numbered R1.1, this is going to be numbered R1.1.1, going with our numbering system. And you can see I've already started this. We're going to call it treadmills, and our description will be the gym shall provide at least 3 treadmills. Okay, now an important part here is, in order to make sure that it is correctly decomposing our requirement for cardio machines, go over here on the relationships pane, and I'm going to say this decomposes our requirement 1.1 cardio machines. Okay, click Save, and now we'll be able to find our 1.1 cardio machines and our 1.1.1 treadmills. If you want to edit any requirement, say that a requirement changed or you just wrote it wrong, just click on it and you'll be able to edit it right here. Now, let's say that you want to directly create a lower level requirement that decomposes some higher level requirement. So using our example of cardio machines again, let's say that I want to create a requirement about ellipticals. So click on the requirement, and from there go to relationships. Here you can see the pinned relationships that we already have. As you can see, our requirement about cardio machines is decomposes providing exercise equipment, and it's decomposed by these requirements about treadmills and bikes. Now let's say that we want to add a requirement about ellipticals. So we're going to click on this blue drop-down next to Add, and we're going to create a requirement. So let's call this new requirement ellipticals. Let's see if I spelled that wrong. There we go, ellipticals. And we're going to number it R1.1.3, going with our numbering convention. And our description will be the gym shall provide at least 2 ellipticals. Now click Save. Now you see that our requirement 1.1 cardio machines is now decomposed by 1.1.1, 1.1.2, and now 1.1.3 ellipticals. So let's say that we want to support our requirements with additional description, rationale, etc. So to do that, let's go to Database, and let's filter by requirements. So you can see here we have our requirements, and if you want to find it easier, you can order them by requirement number. So in this bar, just type order number, enter. And now you see our requirements are nicely ordered. So let's choose requirement about location. Let's see, R3, location. Click on it, and we're going to open the entity view. So now you can see that we have opened requirement R3, location, and let's elaborate on the description a little bit. So right now our description is the requirement itself: the gym shall be within 10 minutes walking distance from all of this stuff here. So if you would like to elaborate on it, a good convention is to enter so that it's on a different paragraph, and we can say something like the Water Street Flats and Delco Loft apartments are the main target consumer base for the new gym system. And your rationale can be something that's originally sourced from a consumer document. So here we have our source document, and I'm just going to copy and paste the background from what our customer wanted. So you can see this rationale here is a potential gym owner in Dayton, Ohio has seen the need for a gym near some new downtown apartment complexes. We can cut this middle part out because it's not directly relevant. This owner sees an opportunity to build a small gym within walking distance of these complexes, hence requirement R3, location. So further down here, you can see we have things like status. Right now it's a draft, or you can say this requirement has been rejected or in review, and also various yes or no criteria that this requirement is clear, complete, consistent, correct, etc. Just general guidelines for whether this is a good requirement or not. You should have a member of your team monitor each of your requirements to see whether your requirements meet these criteria. So we're just going to say that this requirement meets this criteria for now, and as you move further along in the project, you can assess whether these guidelines are met or not. And now here, make sure that these relationships are updated. Right now you can see that this requirement is sourced by artifact1, which is our gym requirements.csv. That's our Excel that we properly formatted, so this requirement was automatically sourced by this artifact. Since we also have a Word document, that's our source document, we can add that document here. See, we have gym source document.docx. And click save. So before we save all of the changes that we've made to this requirement, let's make sure that it has all of the proper components. So starting with the numbering system, we have R3, that's correct, it's what we want, and a proper descriptive name, which in this case is location. In our description, let's make sure that the main description of the requirement, which includes the system shall, in this case the gym shall, is bolded. So you can see I went ahead and did that. And any further descriptive elements is in a separate paragraph and is not bolded. And this is generally a good convention that you should follow. we have the rationale here that we copy and pasted from the source document. We have our criteria, and make sure that all of your relationships are documented here. In this case, requirement R3 is not decomposed by any nested requirements yet, and it is also not directly decomposing any parent requirements. So we can leave that as is, and we have sourced this requirement from our 2 artifacts, which we have here. So once you've kind of gone through this checklist, then we can click Save. And now, if you want to check that your requirement is all good, click on it. Now you can see this description is properly formatted. Our relationships are correct. We have it sourced by these artifacts. And click Save.